Now, what is BA analysis, business analysis perspectives? Now, uh, I'll tell you what exactly we are thinking is there's five BA perspectives. Okay. You already see them on the slide or PDF, whatever we have. Excuse me. Perspectives provide focus to task and technique specific to a context. Okay. Which is nothing but we understand what is the context all about. We understand what's the techniques that is related to it, and we are also making sure that it is including all the aspects of the business. Okay, like agile technology, business intelligence, information technology, business architecture, BPM, business process management. So these are the five principles or analysis aspect perspectives that needs to be kept in mind. Okay. Now, when we say all of these agile techniques, BI, IT, BA, BPM, what are those? Now, it is nothing but see, agile business is like more of like it should that person who is a BA, a business analyst, should be agile, active, person who is having a knowledge about agile technologies. Okay, agile methods, Scrum. There's so many things in technology aspects of agile. So at the same time, you need to also be having a kind of a membership, or you need to be part of an active agile team, which means to say, let's say you're working in an organization in the role of BA, you need to make sure you're part of this agile team. Okay, because that is where it will benefit you more to understand the business, understand the BA aspects in every corner. Okay, business intelligence, it's nothing but transforming, integrating, enhancing, which is nothing but you're helping a customer to modify, innovate, enhance, or upgrade technologies whatever they have. And it is also making helping the you know the client to or the stakeholders to manage the techniques of strategically tactical ways operational performance at the same time. Information technology is a self explanation here itself, because we have to ensure that every technology in the organization that you're helping with, it has to be looked very carefully. You have to make sure the certain requirements of policy, info security measures, then you have the requirements, policy controls, security measures for IT related. It should all be kept in mind, because we if we are dealing with a company, we are helping them to serve the purpose of a BA. We also have to make sure that we look into their IT technology as well, like how well are their systems up to date? Are they having the right technology? Are they having the right tools? Are they having the right resources? Are they compliant or they non-compliant? All things have been looked into in that when you're doing a BA role. Now, what is business architecture? It's more of analytical thinking and more of understanding the complete business model of the company, or let's say operational model. Because like whenever you see a company, you will not see every company has the same business structure or modeling. They have a different way of functioning. Like they have one set of uh, model, like which says that my so and so business will work only with this model, because that's the success rate behind the model is itself. So you have to focus and understand how their architecture works, in the sense what are their business internal architectures, like what is the setup, what business model do they follow, or what operational model do they follow. And last but not the least, it's a BPM, it's business process management. It's more of developing or improving the processes itself. So this is something which is an existing I would say a BPM is more of an existing process. Okay. and you're just helping the business to improve it, rather than, you're not starting something very new. You're just going to start something very new. It's going to be more of updating the process. You're trying to help them improve. You're helping them to increase their quality. You're helping them to increase their efficiency. You're helping them to reduce the employees turnaround times. Example, so that's your business process management, which is nothing but you're trying to work on the existing business models or existing business processes. Okay, now these things I'll also share with you. Don't have to uh, do it immediately, but our key takeaways from these sections, what it is you have to understand who is a BA, what does the BA do, how is the backup model set up, what's the framework, what are the six knowledge areas. Okay, like the six knowledge areas we had was few of them, like we went through in previous session: communication, behavior, analytic skills, and then we have interaction skills, leadership. So these are your key areas of knowledge. And what is a Babok guide talking about? The 50 techniques and 5 perspectives. So in total, you have understood what is the techniques in general. You just know what are the 50, but you don't know in depth. But you understand how many techniques we apply for your BA role. We understand how many perspectives are there. We understand how many business analysis competencies are present. That was our key takeaway from this uh, you know introduction to the Babok technology. Now, coming to the other part, we are going to look into a business planning and business monitoring. So that's one of your first key area focus that you will have to start working towards. Business analysis, planning, and monitoring. So in the previous module or PDF discussion we were doing, you have to be very well planned in the system. Okay, you cannot just get into a meeting room and just say we can do this, we can do that, all these things. No, you have to be a very well planned. You should be a good organizer, I would say. Like how people in event management they organize things. The same way, example, BA has to organize things in a very easy, simpler, and a better manner. And monitoring is important because another same example, event management people, when they go decorate a specific place, they also have some people to monitor around it. Like, let's say there's supervisors, their event managers, or organizing managers, or whoever it is. They have them to monitor things. To why? To observe how is the output. Is it working the way it should be? Did the client like the design? Did the client like the decoration? A, B, C, D, all of this. The same thing the BA will have to do is plan first, and then also know how do you monitor that situation when it goes to production. Like basically you're giving a solution, after solution how does it work. Now, introduction, that's a little bit overview or understanding of BA planning and monitoring. But what I would say is, like, do you think that uh, performing any activities or performing any BA activities without planning and determining how you will be able to function it will not be a success. It will always be a problem and a fail. We always have to plan and monitor them. That's what I was talking about. And we sometimes, I told you, right? BAs, they generally don't think out loud in their self. They just start working on whatever the client says, but they don't know, did they plan out what activity should be done? So, example, okay, sorry, exam example, um, event management again. Okay, they plan first everything. Okay, I need a stage, I need a chair, I need a arch, I need to decorate them. What are the requirements of decoration? Does it require flowers, balloons, threads? You see so many things. There's a list. That is one of your part of BA requirement as well, or a technical competency. You have to plan your activity of what you're going to do. Like client told you the problem, everything, you have the knowledge now. You know what is going to be done. You have to just plan it up, like A, B, C, D, three, whatever. Put it up in a stepping way. And another thing is like monitor. How would you do that? Monitoring work is another important task, because doing just a plan and implementing and leaving it deserted like that doesn't make sense. The BA will also care about monitoring it, because now imagine you spending so many number of hours, days, months to do what? To fix a problem. Now, don't you think you would also like to know the feedbacks? You would like to monitor and see how it is working. You also would like to see how are the employees with that system working around it. So it's more of feedback sessions. It's more of monitoring and understanding the functionalities you have implemented. So obviously, when you are spending your investing your so much time to do someone's business easy, better, smooth, and a very good functional way, you will also expect, I want to know what's happening. Because see now, another example, whenever we go to a place to, let's say a theater, a PVR, a theater's function, or a mall itself, we go to a theater, movie theaters, PVR or whatever it is, we go and watch the movie. So basically, the plan was what? The planning is, on this particular day, I am booking a ticket for so and so number of people. Let's say two people are going from your house, example. That's what called as your business planning. You planned it. Now, what are you going to do in that uh, movie hall or theater hall? You know the plan is already created. I am going to watch the movie is about so and so uh, artist, and the movie is little about so and so concept. So I want to know how it is. Now what are you going and doing there sitting? You are monitoring the entire video, the visual. For what reason? To know whether did I invest the right amount of money for my better, you know, satisfaction, or did it go in waste? So you understand, you are investing your time, you want to know the reward of it. Was it fruitful, or did something go wrong? It's very important. Now see, example, movies, you can't do anything. You can just give a review and a feedback. Yeah, it went well, it didn't go well, but nothing can change, right? They cannot go back to the movie and change everything. But BA can do that when the problem is still found, like monitoring sessions. When you find there's a problem, what is there? You have an opportunity to do a bug fix. Like I said, defect, understand the defect and report them and resolve it. That is what BA will do. Now this is the backup model we discussed, in the previous session, how it works. You always have to apply these methods. I would say the star method here. This uh, design or this model has to be followed in every planning, every BA role, or every BA scope or project requirement. Because only with this you'll be able to understand the requirement. You'll be able to understand what are you here to do. Because people, I said right, BAs, when they become certified BAs, They just focus on technology and start working. Okay. But also there are some things we also have to take care of. I tell you, right? Context, then also we have stakeholder. So these things we have to keep in mind. So always remember this, 6 action items for you: change, solution, context, value, stakeholder, need. So it's more of like you'll understand where what item or action item should be placed. What are the needs and requirements of the stakeholder? First thing we might be interested to know, who is the stakeholder? What is the need? What are we looking for a change? And then what is the solution we prefer to do? How is the context going to behave after the solution? And what is the output of the feedback, like let's say the stakeholder feedback after doing a implementation? So that is important. So you have to remember this model. That's where you will understand how to follow and proceed accordingly. Now in BA planning and monitoring, you see this input, tasks, output. Now there are three action items that you would have to look into when you do planning and monitoring. What is that? Excuse me, sorry. So first thing, input. So it's important you understand the needs. That is your first thing. In addition, internal and external influences. So I'll tell you what is this all about. You'll get to know. Input, it's nothing but you're downloading things, information, understanding the stakeholder, understanding their problem, understanding what they require, understanding what is their context, understanding what is their uh, pain areas. So that's all your inputs. What is your task? Task is, now I have to plan. I have to utilize some techniques. BA50 techniques, you'll have to think in that way. What is the best technique I can apply for this client? What is the better way to govern the plan? Like basically governance is more of like monitoring itself with help of some reporting, MIS, kind of functionalities. That is another thing. Then, sorry, then it is more of information management. How do you store the information? What is the required resources to keep the information confidential about the stakeholder? All these things. That's your task. Now you understand what's input. Input is first stage, stakeholder, importance, what are the requirements, what are the needs, what are the external factors and internal factors that have come, uh, which made this customer come to you as to a BA. That is important to understand. Task, task, it's again nothing but now you have to identify what all things have to be accomplished for the successful project implementation, let's say. Task, then now what's your final output? You need to understand what approach, what is the output that you're looking at, that needs to be put in place once you perform the BA role activities, implementing technology aspect, everything has to be understood. Now, here is your business analysis approach. So you can see the person that's a BA input, you understand its need. Okay. Now, what is after that need? Sorry, just give me 1 minute. Excuse me. Okay. Now, input, we know it's nothing but the needs and requirements. Now, planning of business analysis, how do you plan? You have to plan. How do you do that? What is the technology? What kind of style do you prefer to follow? What approach should you follow? What activities should you have? What are the list of tasks? So I gave an example of event management. So you see, the planning was all about how to decorate that place and make it a successful. So output was how is it going to be done and who is it doing? Who is going to do it? Planning is one place. Output is nothing but it's not the result. It's all about inaction. Let's say I know I'm planning tomorrow to go to a place, but why am I going there? Means what is my expectation or what is my output after I go there? So that is important to understand. So here, as a business analysis approach, it is planning BA. You finish that, then your business approach is nothing but understanding what is the requirement, who is going to perform the required activities, who is going to perform the task of ABCD, who is going to take a you know a record of what exactly is to be done. Timing is nothing but your duration of project, like what is the duration you're going to take on doing it. Sequencing is nothing but you place the plan, design, after your design is ready, like design in sense your solution. Okay, how do you sequence them, how do you place them, like A B C D, what sequence would you prefer to follow? So that is what is required of BA approach. Now, what are the elements? Now, see, there's some elements that you also need to know is your methods of approach. So basically, what happens is planning methods always fall between this predictive, predictive and adaptive approaches. Now, what happens? Predictive approach, it is basically called as plan driven. Means you have a good plan, it's created, and you are following the same throughout the duration. Okay. Now, what is predictive? Again, it's nothing but you already planned something which you know will go as per the duration of the project. But what is adaptive? Adaptive is nothing but more of, you can understand the term itself. You will start uh, adapting based on the nature of business, predicting, and basically more of like understanding basis of the requirement internally. Okay, so it's more of like excuse me, it's more of like predicting how the business is going to be, how the project is going to be planned accordingly. So it depends on the competitive offerings, customer requirements, industry structure or architecture, all of these things. And what is the formality and level of details is nothing but we all know whenever you plan something, you need to have some level of details given. Like details in sense not like a story, but at least an understanding to the stakeholder, saying that this is my level of details that needs to be delivered while performing your business analyst functional functions, like BA functions of the project. So that is important. After that, you have to give them a breakdown of activities. Okay, you have to tell them in what stages are you going to do things. Okay, now again, event management, you can see when people are doing event management or organizing an event, you see there are activities listed down, so many activities, let's say 20, 30 event activities are there. But what do? They task it. How? What they will do is, let's say, event management for the first 5 activities is going to be done in, uh, let's say, garden area, lawn area. Okay. What is the task given there? That depends on the number of activities you're going to perform. Then another set of 5 tasks will be done in the lobby. or I would say more of a hall area. Okay, that is one more thing. So, like this, the BA will have to identify what activities should be placed in what task. That is important. And timing, I told you again, duration, it should be specified. You cannot tell the client directly, hey, I'm going to take 20 days to complete this project. But the client would be more happy if you tell them, why are you taking 20 days? You understand, this is what we as a business analyst should understand. We try to tell the client with transparent information. That is why it's called trust, trustworthiness, then integrity, being very honest to the customer, giving them information what is required. Those are the things you have to keep in mind. Complexity, size of the change, and overall risk. Now what is this? It's more of like nothing but the complexity of the project. Let's say you identify the challenges, there is a complexity of opportunities, the project size may differ, the risk is involved, correct? So there's some risk, there's some complex issues that you really know, you're well aware of. So keep the client informed, that is what is expected. And lastly, I would say, after everything is set, you are ready to uh, place a proposal to the client. Tell them, this is what I have reviewed, and I understand from this we can do this. So, what happens in this? The client will review, the client will try to understand, okay, this is what we are doing. These are the number of activities, these are the number of tasks, this is the number of duration hours. So many people are going to be involved. Okay, there is a risk if I don't do this, there is a risk if I don't do that. This is all something that has to be reviewed and agreed by the stakeholders. Until and unless you get an approval from the stakeholder to proceed, we do not do any action items on that. Some cases, again, I'll tell you, this is a real life examples I've been through with. We we are very strict on our timelines. You understand, right? When we are giving the project in the timely manner, the payments, the invoices are paid on time. Now, assuming there is a delay in the project delivery, so obviously your company would take a risk of losing some invoice money for that particular month. So instead of 20 days, now you're taking 40 days to complete the project. So what happens? The client will lose some, trust. You told me 20 days, but now you're taking 40 days. So I'm little skeptical about you guys. Are you going to do it well or not? So you see, don't give that opportunity. Be very practical with numbers, duration, and always formulate, or I would say prepare a plan which is as per the client requirement. Okay, you can modify it, you can do a styling as per your work method, but at least when you're giving the details or sharing the information to the client as a proposal, put it in the format which they prefer to understand. Okay, then you follow whatever methodology, the style of working you have, you can do that. That is up to a BA, you can't restrict anyone. So the BA can work in the way he or she wants to prefer. Now, what are the guidelines and tools? Guidelines and tools is very important. It's more of assessing the performance and approach towards the stakeholder engagement. So, now what is this? It's more of like policies and procedures of the BA performance, BA understanding the product. Okay. So BA performance management and performance assessment is also important. Why? Performance assessment will help us to analyze what exactly is where we need to work on, what is the requirement, how is the performance measured, how is it going to be calculated, XYZ. Stakeholder engagement approach. So that is something more of, you know, how the stakeholders would like to communicate. What are the channels of communication? So many things have to be looked into it. Okay. So that's one thing. Now, guidance while planning BA approach, business policies, methodologies, framework, and expert judgment. So you always have to seek some guidance, okay? Because we also know the work what we are doing, but it doesn't stop there. Sorry, it doesn't stop there because guidance is required. Why? So that we understand what are the business policies, because we don't know what policies, what are their operational procedures to be followed. And if we skip anything, your company is at problem. Or let's say you a BA, you will be caught hold of it. You will be accountable for the mistake. Correct. And it is not only a mistake, it's like you're losing the trust of the stakeholder. So always understand what are the business policies, what are their procedures, what are their methodologies and framework. Framework is really important to know how have they been, what is the current operational performance levels, how are they operating, what is the framework they have set up, or what is the tool and technology in place, all these things. And you seek an expert judgment also. Okay. Expert judgment is nothing but your project managers, your leads, your project directors, stakeholders. You can ask their expertise. Okay. Okay. That is not a problem. Why? Because we also prefer taking a expert judgment at most of the places in BA role to understand, is that decision or a judgment what we are going to place in action, is it going to be acceptable in the nature of client. So that is important you understand and take an expert suggestion. Like example, another way I'll tell you, uh, let's say KBC itself, Kaun Banega Crorepati. We have contestants when they are playing the game, answering questions, and at some point of time they're stuck. Okay, they don't know the answer to the question. We always have an expert advice there in KBC show. There'll be someone from a well recognized organization, or they are a government officials, or they are well aware of corporate affairs, politic affairs, external affairs, or let's say world economy itself. Example like that. So what do they do? They take an expert advice. Why? Because let's say I'm sure that the answer is C option, okay? But I'm still taking an expert advice. Why? I'm taking an expert advice to make sure the approach is correct. So, similar way, in a business analyst role, you have to do everything, but at the same time, take a second judgment, take a second review with your team member, managers, project managers to confirm if this is correct or not. They are not somewhere very different. The skills are same skills like what you possess. They will understand what exactly have you worked upon, what's your proposal to the client. So it's important take an expert judgment at the same time. Now can you see the different types of techniques that a BA can perform during the business analysis planning? What are the techniques? Can you see there are 15 techniques? Brainstorming, case studies, document reviews, estimates, financial analytics, like more of like financial accounts, then decompositions, excuse me, sorry, interviewing. Now, interviewing is nothing but I told you, right? You're talking to people internally or the organization people to know more about the information on the problem. Item tracking, like once you set up the place, it's going to start taking action on the particular event or activity. You need to keep a track of it. Lessons learned is nothing but your past uh, history, or I would say past issues that you have identified, and you don't want them to repeat in the nature of your technology or your resource, whatever it is. Process modeling, that is another technique. Okay. Reviews is nothing but I would say in general how you take feedbacks from the customers after they go from any particular shop, showrooms, a food outlet example, right? You will have to give a review. Similar way, we need to review the same and identify, is this thing right or wrong, or there is a problem, ABC, whatever. Now, what is risk analysis and management, scope modeling, and survey questions and workshop? So these are the things, the techniques. They are performed in a manner of understanding so many different aspects. Not only how do you do this, what's your implementation method, how are you going to track things? It's not only that much. You have to make sure you understand the risk. Tomorrow, if something goes wrong, the client should be prepared for the risk which is going to take place. So that is called your analysis of risk, and how do you manage the risk at that particular time. So today you might not be at a risk of facing the technology to be a problem for XYZ reason, but on that particular future, let's say after 5 months, 6 months down the lane, you do see that there is a problem, and there is a risk of losing business, losing client, losing revenue, losing a lot of clients, stakeholders. There's so many things, right? For what reason? One reason, which is nothing but your risk. What was there? Did we analyze that? And how do you manage to resolve it in a timely based manner? What is scope modeling? Scope modeling is nothing but your objective. What's your goal? You need to put that into place. Service and questionnaire, it's more of like, again, feedback. What do you want? What are you expecting? How would you like to implement this? What are your expectations? So it's nothing but you're taking the feedback of what needs to be done. You don't have to tell the problem, you have to tell more about what is required. That's where the survey and questionnaires will come in place. Workshops, now this is a very common method which we follow, but not everywhere I suggest would this work, is because workshops is something that you need to visit a particular place, let the team in advance know why are you here, what is the intention about your workshop, how are you going to deliver this, and how are we going to make sure we understand and take uh, certain notes from it. Okay, so that is important. Now, here is what techniques, lessons learned. So I was talking, right? Lessons learned is nothing but your past failures. What are the other opportunities? Why should I follow? Why should I do this? Recommendations for improvement. So I told you, right? Your lessons learned is something which is coming from before, past, or whatever. Like you had a problem that you were not able to identify A, B, C, whatever. But today, you don't want to repeat the same problem. Like, how do you identify ABC? You need to find a solution. You cannot say that I'm still trying to find out the solution. I'm not yet finding it. Okay, I'll check later. This is all something not acceptable in the role of BA. So the BA has to be very proactive, very communicative, and very enthusiastic towards the requirements. So only then it does work out successfully. If not, it does not at all. Okay. So you can see a little more information of lessons learned. So if you take a look quickly, it is retrospective, formal or informal, reinforcing positive experiences. Okay. What exactly are the ingredients to run this technique successfully? In general, ingredients is what I call. So basically, you need to plan your activities. What are the recommendations of behavioral approach? Then RCA, that's your root cause analysis. Then performance expectations and results, impact to the organization as well as their processes, and the final delivery of the solution. So in every technique of BA, that 50 techniques you see, there are certain ingredients involved in it, like elements we say. So every element is very important. We understand that whatever technique you apply, make sure your elements are applicable and available to that. Like even though if you miss out one element, your entire recipe will be waste, I would say in general, because all these ingredients are very important to follow and successfully apply the technique. Now, this is your stakeholders involved in the planning of business analysis approach. Who are those? Subject experts, regulator, stakeholder, sponsor, and PM, project managers. So these are your five example stakeholders. So who all are involved in this particular planning business analysis approach? So there are five people: domain SME, project manager, sponsor, regulator, and stakeholder. Now, if you see a little about stakeholder management or engagement, this is what it is. We need to understand the needs. What are the approach the business analyst will follow? Okay. Like I told you, right, in the basic initial start of today's session, like approach, methodology, style of working, you need to keep it very precise in the initial stage itself. You cannot follow your approach methodologies anytime, anywhere, because I'll tell you the reason is when you are planning your business analysis approach, or let's say planning your activities, after you know the needs, immediately you need to understand what approach is going to be effective, which planning technique is effective for me, what exactly will determine the right way of solution designing. So all these things have to be done the similar way stakeholder engagement also is being done. So you have to plan an approach. Excuse me, sorry. You have to plan an approach for establishing and maintaining effective working relationship with stakeholders. Okay. Then identifying your stakeholder is again important, and what are their characteristics. So obviously, when you have your customers, you would be interested to know their profile. You would be interested to know their characteristics, features, what exactly they are, you know, in organization, what are they doing, what is their role. So there are so many things you would like to know about the customer. The same way, the business analyst individual will also do the same thing. You will have to identify so many things to make sure your stakeholder engagement is good. You don't fall into any problems, any complexities, because uh, anything between the start stage of planning till the end of monitoring, you have to keep consistent uh, plan in place. At the same time, your stakeholder engagement communication channel should be open. So that is important for us in terms of your planning your stakeholder engagement. So what are your elements in stakeholder engagement? Again, it's nothing but your ingredients. Your elements are: how do you perform stakeholder analysis? What do you do that? You identify what roles do they play, what is their level of authorities, what is their level of power. So basically these are nothing but, it's like roles. Who are the stakeholders? What role do they play in their organization? Are they a manager? Are they a director? Are they a vice president? So roles is important to understand, because every role plays a different uh, requirement, and they have a different level of influence, authorities, uh, you know, power, I would say. Correct. So generally, if you see it in a, let's say you're going to a mall, a store, you will see there are some employees who are working to serve the customer, but at the same time there is a person who manages the entire store, who is observing things. So he has the decision making authority. Like, let's say the employee didn't do the right way of addressing the customer. Okay, for which reason we did not have customers approaching us to buy the product. So basically you have to understand the power of your decision making also is important, and the level of authorities you have. So in that particular store manager example itself, that person can have an authority to, terminate them, suspend them from the job responsibilities, or they can change their duties. So that is your decision making authority. You have to know when you're performing a stakeholder analysis. Stakeholder communication needs, this is very important. Identify, sorry, identify what are the communication needs. Okay, like when we say communication needs, it is not important it's only telephone, email, chat, uh, fax, or whatever mode of communication you're planning. It's also important how well do you communicate them, how is the governance in place, what measures do you take to keep the customer or stakeholder aware of each and every activity, task, job responsibilities, everything you will have to keep in place. Planning stakeholder collaboration. So, collaboration is important, right? So, like, let's say you delivered a problem solution to a client, and the project is done. Yes, the project is completed, but you would like to grow the business with the same client, right? You would like to plan to retain them. How? That is something you'll have to plan your collaboration activities. Invite them for some frequent, like say example, you can invite the stakeholder for some of the meetings which they can be part of, or you can catch up in their requirements, or any workshops, anything. It can be any kind of form of collaboration. It doesn't mean only that you have to talk to them very frequently, regularly. No, you have to get involved in each other's activity, tasks, like that. So that is your collaboration. Now, what are the planned stakeholder engagement tools and guidelines? It is again, excuse me, it is again a performance assessment. That is important. Now, here in stakeholder, you will be thinking, why do we need performance assessment? Now, that is important. While because without understanding their guidelines and tools for planning their stakeholder engagement, you cannot build that communication and trust between you and the stakeholder. So, how do you do that? You need to assess them. The performance assessment is more of like, you're not assessing them on their company business uh, operation benefit. You're looking at assessing them on the stakeholder requirement. So basically, you're assessing them to understand who is this person, what are they doing, what is their requirement, what is their business ideology, sorry, ideas, what are the scope, etc., etc. Change strategy, that's again something very important. If you think uh, you don't feel that this method is going in a better way, talk to your stakeholder. Tell that you have a better approach which can be done in a better way and help you reduce the timeline. Tell them, keep them informed. And current state description. Current state is more of like nothing but the current situation, how it is. More of like recent updates, present updates, what has happened, what has not happened. So, all these things. Now, here are the techniques that you can follow when you plan your stakeholder engagement. So you can just take a look at it. There are 13 different techniques. Starts from brainstorming, BA roles, rules analysis, document analysis. So you can see some of them are very common in this. And you will see these techniques across every key areas of CBAP. Basically in Babok guide, most of the techniques you will see is very connected. It's very common. They apply the techniques to all of the uh, areas of improvement for that particular problem. Okay, so they have a lot of techniques around it. So you can just take a quick look and then let's move ahead. So if you see brainstorming, then analysis of document, business analysis, interviews, lessons learned, mind mapping, organization modeling. So all of this are your techniques to plan the stakeholder engagement. Now if you see this is an organizational model. So here we are looking into a different topic. Like first one we saw planning the business analysis approach. Then we saw how do you plan your stakeholder management, engagement, sorry. How do you manage and engage your stakeholders? Now you look into the organizational modeling. What is it all about? It's nothing but you are understanding the roles, responsibilities, everything about the organization. And what you will do is these structures will be aligned with the organizational goals. I told you, right? When you are providing a benefit or solution to and place the structures as required by them. After that, you can see a formal relationship, functional role, common in most organization, which is nothing but you would have seen this, it's a very casual thing, a formal thing in every company now. You will see a lot of you know collaborative events, collaborative tasks completed in a group by different departments. So that is your organizational model. Formal relationships, functional role of each person, interface between a stakeholder, common in most organizations. So it's more of nothing but after you know the organizational model, structure, architecture, whatever you want to call it, then you will be able to align the goals and activities, task, whatever you have planned for. Now, here is your ingredient recipe of your organizational models. So, you can see there are three types of organizational models: functionally oriented, market, and matrix model. Now, if you understand, okay, example, um, one of a client reaches out to you, their organization is ABC, and after you get a insight of what the problem is, it is your responsibility to also to understand how are they working functionally, what's their structure, What is their market structure? How do they market their business? How do they market their products? What is their matrix model? So every company has a matrix. Okay, they have a matrix model created to success, identify the rate of success, identify what are the obstacles, challenges, benefits, everything. Organization unit includes number of roles. Excuse me. Interfaces with other organization unit, which is nothing but, let's say you're working with a department, so you have to make sure you also include all the people involved in the particular, organizational or operational team. So you have to keep everyone looped together, or I would say chained in simple terms. So chained is like, you have to keep everyone together with you. Organization chart, we are all aware. It is basically, it gives you that hierarchy of the department or the business or the company itself. Starting from CEO, then you have VPs, EVPs, then directors. So there's something called as hierarchy chart. So which is nothing but, we call it as organization chart. So if you have an example, you can look at when you are inside working, and you can see that there will be a hierarchy chart. They'll be preparing it like some diagram type, or they'll put it up in a tree way, like, branching wise. So that is important. You need to understand that also. Identify informal lines of communication which can influence BA activities. Now, you know what happens? Why do you think you need this org chart or matrix of hierarchy? It is nothing but, if in case, let's say things don't go well with the current uh, team, you're working with the company, you have a team working with you, and it doesn't go well between you and that kind of people. So, what happens next? Would you leave it, or would you just continue doing what you want? No, you will create a channel of communication with other people who are connected to that particular activity of BA approach. So, example, um, let's say I come to you as a client from operations team, and I tell you, for some ABC reason, but what happens? I'm not in touch with you much. Like, we are not talking much. We are not trying to see what's happening much. It's just we are, anything comes from our side, or we'll talk to you. What is happening in all this case? There will be another person who will be, uh, what is that called, who will be taking charge above in the hierarchy. Okay, now I am a manager. Let's assume my role is a manager role. You are in touch with me from day one, but for some reason I'm not available, I'm not responding. Now you have the authority, and you can talk to my next hierarchy. So it's not about you giving a complaint, but it's more about keeping the business analytics activities up to date with someone else also. Because there are chances, like, we may tend to miss out the list of activities, because there's so many other things the operation people will be very busy with there. So they want to keep a tab of it. You can inform them, you can inform someone else also from the hierarchy chart, or I would say org chart. See, this is an example. Can you see? It's like example of organization chart. Something similar to this. Let's say you're working with someone from operations team, okay, and you're working with an infrastructure manager. So who are they working directly with? They work with operations team, but also there is a BU head assigned to that particular business line. So these are the lines of business, LOBs: development, program, operations, finance, human resource, sales and marketing. So you see their list of business activities. So It is your responsibility to reach out to anyone else above the org chart to discuss the approach, activity status, anything you want to do. Okay. So this is an example. You can take a quick glance of how the org model looks like. Now moving ahead, here is your stakeholder list, mapping and personas. Now, this is another important thing to put all your stakeholders in a place. Like basically, you add a list or you want to prepare a chart. Say that these many are my stakeholders, these many people will be part of this project. Um, then identifying what are their stakeholder roles, responsibilities, authority level, everything, the decision making, like we saw in the previous. So these things are very important to know when we are doing a business analysis approach. Okay. Level of authority, attitude, decision making. So this is something which I just spoke about in the previous pdfs. So it has to be very clear. Okay. Now, what are the elements? So we come to the recipe and ingredients. This is what you have to prepare. When stakeholder list map or personas, you have to keep in mind you get the matrix and the onion diagram. Okay. So stakeholder onion diagram, I'll show you an example as well. Okay. So basically, what happens is this, like, stakeholder onion diagram, it is more of like, a kind of an analytical tool, I would say, which will help you to determine who are their stakeholders and how each stakeholder interact with each other within the organization. Okay. So basically, you're trying to see, it's a way of kind of an analytic tool or visualizations that will show you the relationship of stakeholders to a goal or a project. Okay. Because see, now if you would like to know, uh, who are the operations team more in relationship connected to, so you would be interested to know. So in operations, basically they are connected with human resource team, they are connected to finance team, they are connected to admin team, they are connected to, let's say, project management quality team. So you see there's a relationship built from one department to another. So that is your stakeholder onion diagram. And RASI matrix: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Now, this RASI matrix is very important. I'll tell you why. Because this actually, it's a kind of a assignment chart, I would say, to show you how every task, every activity, every milestone of the project is being done. Okay. So basically, in simple, I'll tell you what. Let's say Nizam is a BA. Nizam is responsible for 10 activities. Nizam is accountable out of the 10, 6 activities. Nizam is responsible, accountable, and consulted towards 8 different activities and informed. So you understand, it is basically nothing but breaking it down to show who all are responsible, who is accountable. Now, you can't say example like, quality team is accountable for finance decisions. You can't tell that. Quality team example is they are determined to work towards improving the quality of the process. So, their connection is only with quality. They are nowhere related to finance. They can't do anything. So, you have to understand the RACI matrix is nothing but it is more of showing how people are responsible, accountable towards their roles, activities, and tasks. Now this is an example how it works. So this is a box diagram. Okay. Now this really helps you to understand. Okay. Basically, uh, we can try to put this up. Okay, but it's more of like decisioning matrix. High, low, it's nothing but I'll tell you what this box will tell you the feedback, the understanding of the uh, stakeholder. Okay, so similar way if you come here, so see this is your onion diagram. Can you see customers, suppliers, regulators, sponsors, executive, SMEs, help desk, end user, project team? Now, can you associate this to an example of you being a BA? Who all are connected or in relationship with you when they are doing the task of BA? This is the onion diagram that you will have to understand is nothing but the relationship diagram. It is more of like a visual diagram that says I have a relationship with so many different stakeholders, so many different personals, so many different organization. So all that is in your stakeholder onion diagram. So you can just take a quick glance of how it looks, what are the uh, entities or individuals involved in each of this activity. Okay, now here is your RACI matrix in action. Okay, so here are some examples. Uh, we actually put it up. So identifying a problem or opportunity. Now, uh, whenever there's a task built, you have designed the task list at the same time who all are part of your stakeholder list: sponsor, project manager, implementation team, operations, BA, and regulator. So now can you identify the problem or opportunity? Who is going to fall under what category in RACI matrix? So if you see sponsor, project manager, operations, they are responsible for this task. For what task? Tell me the problem. So that is your first thing. Like basically the BA will ask, what is the problem? So who has to work on this? It is sponsor, project manager, and operations. So these three parties will have to work on gathering the thing, inputs, information, and you will have to share that with your BA. Now, what is BA's role in this? They are accountable. That's what I told you, right? BA will be accountable towards each and every activity performed to resolve this problem. Okay. Implementation team is playing a role of consulting. Basically, they don't have much involvement. They'll just tell you, okay, you gave me this. I tested the requirement, but yeah, I think we need to change. So you see, there's a kind of opinions. They're kind of consulting. They're giving some suggestions that we can look into. Regulators, they're just informed. They don't have to do anything FYI type for your information. They just should know what is happening. No matter what they're involved, they're not involved, they are helping in the tool, technology, problem. No, but only the role what they'll place, they need to be informed of each and everything. The same thing, another example, recommend solution. Okay, if you see there, task name is giving a solution. So who is responsible for that? Again, sponsor, implementation, and operations. Why? Because recommend solution is you're just trying to give a kind of a solution that you think may work or may not work type. Okay. So you would have thought of giving a solution like A, B, C, whatever, but just a recommendation it is. It cannot be placed in effect, it cannot be placed in action. So it is more of just a recommendation. Okay. FYI type, like for your information, sponsor, project manager, and you also have your, you know, what is this called? Operations. So they are all responsible parties. Okay. Who is accountable for this recommend solution? Again, BA. Because if you're giving some solution and BA is trying to work on that solution, what you suggested, so it's their responsibility to identify, is it working the way it should be or is it somewhere different? All these things. So you understand what RACI matrix plays a role now. It is very important to identify who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consulted, and who is informed type, like information, just an FYI type for them. They don't have to do any much involvement. It's just FYI type. So here is a personas example. Okay. So here is another example. Paul Atkins is a marketing manager with a healthcare company, 32 years old. He is married with one child. So what am I trying to do here? I'm giving you the stakeholder persona. I'm giving you more insight about this person, whoever is your stakeholder. His age is 32. He is married. He's a so and so manager and he's having one child. That is the persona identification. So what are the roles? What are the goals, challenges, company preferences? That is something we identify with. Okay. So that is your persona. If you can just take a quick look, fictional and generalized character it is. Okay. It's just like for reference and training purpose itself. So, but this is an example of stakeholder persona. Now, here is your stakeholder management planning. What are the stakeholders? So, we discussed, right? They're stakeholders like customer, SMEs, project manager, end user, supplier, regulator, sponsor. So, these many people are your stakeholders in your project. Okay. So, they are your stakeholders. So you have to coordinate, you have to collaborate, you have to communicate. Everything has to be between all of these people. It should not be only with one person, two-person, it should be with everyone. Okay. So that is important. Now, if you see it down further, we are done with the analysis of your business and planning. Now it is more of planning the governance. Okay. We are planning for approach is done. Now we are planning for governance. I told governance is nothing but monitoring it, more of MIS, more of setting up catch up meetings, uh, conferences, or visits to the client to see how things are going on. Now, if you see the approach, you need to understand what approach should you take, what is the stakeholder engagement approach, understand that first. How decisions are made about requirements and designs includes reviews, change control, approval. Then that's your governance approach. Now, governance approach, in addition, these are your elements. What are your elements? Plan prioritization approach, plan for approval, decision making, change control. So, these are your four elements for business plan governance. Okay. You need to make sure you have this in place, because the thing is, for governance is very important. The reason being is, this will help you to identify what approvals were taken, how many changes were done, what individuals played what role. Okay, so there are so many things that you would like to keep a track of. So tomorrow if something goes wrong, you can take a governance record and show them that, I see this is what was discussed, this was the process we updated, this is the change control, this is the approval, this is the decision making. So you see, all that is very important. Okay, so that is the elements. Now what are the guidelines and tools? So you have to see the guidelines and tools of governance. So again, assessment of, performance policies, what are the current state descriptions, what are the legal regulatory information. Now that is very important. When you're doing governance, right, you need to be very strong with the terms and terminologies of legal requirements, because when you're trying to serve a purpose for, will helping by with helping the organization with their business products, you need to be very careful with their legal structure as well. So you need to study their legal information, you need to know their regulatory information, you need to know how they are functioning in terms of legal. Okay, what are their legal structure, legal policies. So you can see next is, what are the techniques for BA governance. Okay, sorry. Okay, you have techniques for BA governance. It's 10 different techniques can be applied to it. Okay, you can do brainstorming, you can do interviews, workshops, survey and questionnaire, document analysis, item tracking, lessons learned, organizational modeling, process modeling, and reviews. So these are few of your techniques that you can apply to identify the best way to handle your projects. Now, who are your stakeholders in governance? This is important. Four people are involved: sponsor, project manager, regulator, and domain subject matter expert. Okay, these are important. Okay, these people are required to be as part of your stakeholder list when you are planning your governance activity. You have to tell these people to be part of the discussions whenever you're doing some governance activities. They have to be available, so that is important. Now, planning the business analysis information management, you will understand what is the input and output. The input is what? You need to understand the approach, you need to understand stakeholder approach and governance approach. Okay, three approach you have to identify. What is the output? Business analysis information management approach. The output is very simple. It has to make sure that, you are meeting all the three requirements of inputs. Okay, now these are your elements. So if you look at this, your elements are organization of business analysis information, level of abstraction, plan traceability approach, requirements, storage, access, attributes. So now the elements are nothing but, when you are planning a business analysis information management, you need to keep in mind that you have a list of requirements, attributes, their plan, how do they store and access this in future. Okay, what is the traceability approach is more of like trace requirements. So it's basically monitoring activities, then understanding their modeling and structure of the technologies in their system. So that is important. Now what are the guidelines and tools? It is business analysis, performance management assessment, policies, IM tools, legal and regulatory information. So they are more of like you have to analyze or analytics of the business itself, policies, again important. You have to understand what tools are they applying for, okay, and what are their legal and regulatory information. So here are your techniques, and now we have 8 different techniques for information management. Okay, so that is something which is like brainstorming, interviews, surveys, workshops, item tracking, lessons learned, process modeling, and mind mapping. So that is important. So you can determine the various techniques are available. Now it you will have to follow what approach you think is better. Based on that approach, you can select the technique that you would think will benefit you from. Now, here is a different set of stakeholders when you are having your information management planning. Your experts, your subject matter experts, your regulators, your sponsor. Now, do you see you don't have a project manager? You don't have, stakeholders apart from these three. Why? Because the analysis information management, it is like, more of includes only these people like subject matter expert, regulator, and sponsors. What are the business analysis performance improvements? Okay, so this is your input and output for your business analysis performance improvement. So your approach, again, important. And then what is the objective of this particular improvement? Like, because generally we need to understand what objectives do you set when you are providing it to your business stakeholders. So your objective should be very clear of your performance. Assess the planning, of analysis work and improve the processes. So it is more of like assessing again. So you need to do assessment of your performance. Now, what are the methods that you can apply to identify what are the best performance improvement methods? So you have some of the designing of, elements. One of them is analysis, analyze results, assessment measures, recommend actions for improvements. Now, these are some of your elements that you can identify with BA improvements in the terms of performance. So most of these are very important factors which plays a very important role. But in simple term, if I tell you, you all have to make sure that your performance is tracked very closely. Ensure there are certain controls and measures in place to keep a track of your performance. Okay, it's more of like data analytics, it's more of like data visualization way, anything, but you have to keep it very close eye on your performance. That is the reason the elements are related to analysis, performance measurements, and other things. Now the guidelines and tools for these particular plan of identifying the business analysis performance improvements, it's nothing but you have to include the details of performance metrics, expectations for business analysis work that is mandated by the organization. Okay. Now you cannot do anything beyond the policies of the company, right? So the business policies have to be kept in mind when you are doing a project assistance or solution design for the project, whatever you're doing. Okay. So you have to be very clear that you perform them based on the organization policies. You should not go beyond their policies because that's something we are violating their requirements. Here's a list of techniques that you will be applying towards the performance improvements. Okay, so you can see few of them is repetitive but few are different. KPIs, then risk analysis, process modeling. Okay, so you have 13 different techniques that can be applied to your existing improvement of your performance. Now, there was one highlight of technique which was KPI because you can see that the other techniques were very common in nature, but the KPI and metrics is a little different technique. Okay, to if you want to apply this technique in your BA role or a project, you need to make sure you measure the performance of solutions and interest at the interest of stakeholders. KPI is very important. Like, how do you, when you work with a company, they align you with certain goals, responsibilities, KPIs, which is nothing but they will identify your performance based on the solutions, how it happened, like indicators. Okay, so that is very important. A metrics is quantifiable level of an indicator. Okay, so that is very important. A KPI measures progress towards a strategic goal or objective. So KPI is derived from metrics. So that is something which you have to make sure we are measuring the progress towards the goal. Like I said, example of organization and employee, they have a certain set KPIs. Like on a monthly basis, their performance is measured with help of what? The KPIs, the performance metrics. The similar way, you will have to keep a tab of KPIs on business analysis improvement. Then another thing is reporting. Reporting is very important again. You need to keep a tab. You need to at regular intervals keep your stakeholders updated about the process, how is the performance, and any challenges that needs to be looked into. And here are your ingredients or recipes of KPIs: characteristics, metrics, structure, reporting, and quality. So these are the important elements in your KPI metric. Okay. So you need to make sure you have a lot information on characteristics of the indicator, which is nothing but your performance indicators, right? When you're giving you're measuring someone's performance, you have to be very clear and it should be logical and realistic. You cannot set any performance goals for your team saying, ha, do ABC, which is out of scope type. So you have to be very characteristics type when you set your performance metrics. Structure, it's again how do you monitor and evaluate. Reporting, again we discussed, it is more of like how rigorous is your reports, how is it going to benefit the structure of the project. Quality of metrics is nothing but the timelines, the validity, and the reliability. So here are your stakeholders: domain experts, sponsor, and project manager. So only three people will be involved in the identifying BA improvements, the performance improvements measures. Okay. So I think for today we have understood three different areas of BA, like planning approach, then we had another is business approach, and then performance improvements, the metrics. Okay, so we shall continue again.